Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Food School Smarter, Stronger, Leaner podcast on a mission to change the way the world eats. My name is Shurina. I'm a certified nutritionist, health nutrition coach, helping people like you guys to learn how to use nutrition as a tool to improve absolutely everything in your life. Food, that's what we are made of. And depending on the quality, the quantity, the timing of it, we can adjust and change and mix and improve so many things. Also, we can make things worse, of course, with nutrition that doesn't really suit our biology and our health. Guys, today is Monday. It's a new week, new beginning. Last Monday of November, and then we have just one more month in 2021, right? So it's time to start thinking, what are some, probably less is better, what are some priorities, things, relationships, something you want to work on for this last month of 2021, something that if you accomplish this or move forward even a little bit, it's going to bring a real sense of peace and meaning and satisfaction and accomplishment into your life. And it can be, as small, but not insignificant as having this difficult conversation with that person who means a lot to you, but, for some reason we're not able to connect. And that a big part of it is you. I guess, what's happening in my life. I'm always, I end up pouring it into my podcast, but it can be anything, guys. Think about a few things, 3 things that you want to work on in this last month that will bring you the sense of meaning and accomplishment. But let's get back to work, right? We also do meaningful work, hopefully, that we are engaged in something that brings sense of meaning and purpose into your life. And to get better results in our work, creative and business and any sorts of work, accomplishment, creation of something, delivering something, that may be service, that may be a product, that may be anything, a piece of content. In order to deliver our best work, we need to be able to consistently get into the best state to deliver that work. And that state may be known to a lot of you as being in the zone or in the flow, when you are on it, when you are in it, when you know what got to be done, you know how to do it, and you're really focused, not distracted, you're pouring your everything into this piece of work at the moment, and the time seems to just disappear, and you work on it for hours sometimes, and again, the time doesn't seem to exist, and you just get through it, get it done, and the quality is amazing, and you feeling kind of a little bit tired, exhausted, but really happy, and you feel that's feeling, of satisfaction, of meaning. So this zone, this flow state, guys, it's actually a neurochemical state. And when we are in this state, leading scientists, leading researchers of flow, like Stephen Kotler, you might be familiar with his work, his author, he's a speaker. The last one of his books is The Art of the Impossible, highly recommended. But so these researchers, these neuroscientists, they learned that when we are in the state, in the zone, in the flow state, we have certain neurochemicals present in our brain. There are 5 specific neurochemicals that are kind of required to be there if we want to get in the zone and stay there. And nutrition has a lot to do with creating any sorts of chemistry in our brain or in our body, because any chemicals are created from building blocks that we supply from outside of our body. And how do we supply building blocks for anything to happen in our body? We eat food. As simple as that, guys. And so to get easier and stay there in the zone, in the flow state, we need to provide and eat certain foods to make sure that we provide all the needed building blocks to give our body or brain the best chance to create this state that we call the zone, flow state. I like to call it the flow zone. We have 5 neurochemicals that seem to always be present when we are in this flow state. And those are norepinephrine or adrenaline in the brain, dopamine, serotonin, anandamide, and endorphin. So those chemicals got to be present for us to be in the zone, in the flow state. And you can consume certain things, foods, and certain substances to make sure that the body has everything to produce those neurochemicals. So this week we are talking about these neurochemicals. Each day is going to be about one of those neurochemicals that are crucial, that are essential if we want to get in the zone and stay there, producing our best possible work, outstanding work, unlocking the genius that is in each of our brains. Like each of us, we have this genius that is in our brain, and we can deliver our best work that we can also, of course, improve and make it better. But again, in order to do that, we need to be in this optimal state, and flow seems to be it. And it's a fun state, guys. It's actually a very creative cocktail of craving, motivation, drive to do, to accomplish, a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of stress, a little bit of fear, but also this meaning, purpose, satisfaction, and pleasure, and even joy. And all the neurochemicals that we're going to be talking about, they kind of on both sides of those spectrum. You know, some are great for anxiety and keep us awake and focused and alert. And some are great to provide that meaning of purpose, of creation, something meaningful, of pleasure, well-being, even happiness. So this is a fascinating neurochemical cocktail, this state of flow. So let's start with neurochemicals and food that we can eat to improve the production of these important neurochemicals, important for getting into the zone and staying there, or also flow state. Let's start with dopamine. You know, a lot of you might think about dopamine as this molecule of pleasure, but it actually not pleasure. Dopamine is about craving. It's about motivation to do things, to make effort to get something that our brain thinks is important. They did a few studies, you know, they disrupted the production or the work of dopamine receptors in the brain of mice. And so mice wouldn't even press the button to get the food without dopamine working properly. Like they would eat if you bring food right to them, but they wouldn't even press a light button to get it without dopamine. So without dopamine, you wouldn't even go to a store to get a donut if your life depended on it. Unless somebody put that donut in your mouth, you wouldn't even do that if you had zero dopamine in your system working in your brain. So dopamine is it's motivation, it's drive, it's cravings, it's go-getting molecule. And it's very important, right? To get anything done, especially anything challenging, anything we're not sure of, anything a little bit more complex that requires effort, we need dopamine. We need our motivation. A lot of people are struggling with that motivation. So dopamine, the disruption of the production and the usage of the dopamine, the disruption in work of dopamine receptors in the brain that, by the way, are abused by things like high sugary foods or processed foods or always going for instant gratification. But that's, for another episode. Today, we're talking about how to give the body, the brain, to change to create the dopamine in the first place. And dopamine is all about L-tyrosine. This is an amino acid, a building block of certain proteins that is present more in some foods more than in others. So L-tyrosine, amino acid. It's present in high amounts in foods like lean pork, beef, lean chicken, salmon, and firm tofu. So very specific foods. Now, after that, we have things like dairy products and eggs, but they're kind of like more of like distant cousins. So per serving of, let's say, lean beef, you're going to get like 200% of the requirement of this amino acid L-tyrosine to create dopamine, right? From something like some dairy products, let's say a glass of milk, you're going to get just about 80%. Obviously it depends on the quality of the product, on the kind, but plant-based even, lower than that. So your best chance to get the dopamine that you need is eating for breakfast about 3-4 ounces, so 100-120 grams of either salmon or lean chicken, lean beef, lean pork, or firm tofu, maybe like tofu scramble. Eggs, by the way, have additional benefits for the brain, for attention, for memory, for learning. So maybe tofu egg scramble can be a really amazing thing for your dopamine and a lot of other neurochemicals for attention, learning, memory, all the things that are also helpful when we are in the flow, right? But when it comes to L-tyrosine, this amino acid, and the foods that are richest in them, those are salmon, lean beef, pork, chicken, firm tofu, and 3-4 ounces. I personally would go either with salmon or with eggs and a little bit of salmon. Salmon, why? Because it also contains omega-3 fatty acids that are also crucial and essential for a brain that works well and is healthy. That would be my personal choice. But that's what you want to have if you want to have the most dopamine in your system. And ideally you would have something for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? Because those amino acids, the body doesn't store them. So they kind of like being present in our blood flow in a flux. So the body uses them and then every day it kind of recycles them. So you need to be consuming them on a regular basis. And, guys, in my vegan days, I was vegan for 4 or 5 years at some point. And on some level, it was great. Like I could meditate really well, like sit and think about nothing for seems like hours, but I couldn't make myself do anything effectively. Like seriously, it's like I lacked that ability to make myself motivated enough to do any effort to achieve things and get the hard things done. And so once I switched back to the diet that contained animal products, my motivation went right back in. So for me, I'm very sensitive to that. You might be a little bit less sensitive, but then again, if you're a vegan, if you eat a lot of tofu, like I didn't eat a lot of tofu back then, because tofu also kind of like, considered to eat too much and is also bad for you. So anyhow, I was in Thailand also. Tofu wasn't that widely available. Unless you go to a special store. Anyhow, so dopamine, the molecule of drive, of motivation, of taking steps that are challenging to get something done, to create something, to achieve something, especially challenging. So dopamine is all about that. And in order for your body to make it, for your brain to make it, you need to consume this building block, specifically this amino acid that dopamine is made of, L-tyrosine. And again, let's recap: salmon, lean, beef, pork, and chicken, and firm tofu. And then again, there are some in eggs, there are some in dairy products, there are some nuts and seeds that have some, but again, those are distant cousins of the first 5 foods that I named. And that's it for today, guys. Today is about the first neurochemical of flow, of state. And it's one of the most important one. If you don't have any motivation, how are you going to get anything done and get into any zone of flow? Yeah, it's not going to happen. Plus, dopamine is important for another reason that we're going to talk about probably tomorrow. Yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about, norepinephrine or adrenaline, and why dopamine is important there also. So dopamine, very important. So eat your salmon, lean beef, chicken, pork, and firm tofu, or also tofu scramble with a couple of eggs. That's an amazing combo. Maybe eggs and some salmon. That's another like powerhouse for your brain. Different nutrients important for memory, attention, and learning, and motivation. So guys, you get the idea. Dopamine is important to get in the zone, to get into flow state and get the important work done. And what's most importantly, get it done well. So it cuts through the noise. So people notice it and pay attention. So it changes something. It makes a difference, not for the check mark that you did something, right? Not to check it off your to-do list. So eat for your dopamine. Stay tuned this week for all the other 4 neurochemicals of flow that will allow you to get in the zone and stay in the zone flow state for longer and stay there delivering something amazing and something that wows people, right? Share this episode with another person who might be struggling with motivation. Like if you have friends or people you know in your community, maybe on your team, working together on the project, if they're not feeling motivated, maybe suggest, this podcast to them or make them some, salmon and eggs for breakfast and see how much better they feel when it comes to motivation. Let me know also what you think, how useful it is, if you have any questions. And guys, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. I'm going to talk to you tomorrow. And till next time, eat better daily. And of course, eat something for more dopamine.